José Domingos from Ori Industries. Today I'm going to tell you about Ori Kubernetes Serverless, the new service we're launching. When you log on to the platform of Ori, you'll have the option to select Kubernetes. When you select Kubernetes, you'll have the ability to create a cluster. You just name your cluster, and that's it. That starts the creation of a new Kubernetes cluster. This takes about 45 seconds. So let me show you the documentation for this. So if you go into Docs on Docs Ori Co, you'll see the documentation for Kubernetes Serverless here, and this explains how the service works. This service gives you access at the moment to 3 different GPU platforms: H100s, V100s, and L4s. Right, it's now available. So I'm just going to download the kubeconfig. This gets downloaded in my computer onto the downloads folder, and once that's done, I can access the Kubernetes cluster by just exporting the environment variable. kubeconfig.yaml is the name of the file that I've downloaded. And now I've got kubectl get pods -a. Right, so you'll see that we've got a control plane available to us. So this is a new cluster, and what I'm going to do is just show you some of the things we can do with this cluster. Okay, so let's deploy a pod. So to deploy a pod, I've got one here that I've created. So this is a deployment for stable diffusion. So it's kind deployment, stable diffusion. It's going to deploy one replica of this image. So this is a stable diffusion image from Docker.io. It's going to request one GPU, and it's going to have an L4 GPU effectively. So if I just apply this, kubectl apply -f equals GPU demo.yaml, this will start the deployment of this pod on the cluster control plane. So to see other node selectors, you can just go into the documentation, into node selectors, and you see that you can use an H100, a V100s, or an L4 at the moment. These are the 3 types of GPUs supported. Okay, so if I do kubectl again and I do get pods, then we see that stable diffusion is now running. Another thing we can do is we can create a load balancer to access this pod. So let me just deploy a load balancer. I've got a load balancer here. Shows here stable diffusion service, load balancer, port target 8080, protocol TCP. Okay, so standard load balancer. So let me just deploy this kubectl apply -f, same thing, GPU demo lb YAML. Okay, so this starts the Kubernetes service. Kubectl get services, and it's still waiting for an external IP. That will take a little bit of time. So as I was saying, we can at the moment use these node selectors. In the billing section of the documentation, it explains how we bill for this service. So we bill per minute, and have the different types of resources available: the V100, the H100, and the L4, and the price per minute. Here is a price per hour. We bill per minute, so that means that you will only be charged for the amount of GPU you use during that particular period of time that you have the pods scheduled. You also pay for memory and CPU, and you pay for load balancer. So this is the memory used by pods, the CPU used by pods, and the load balancer time that the load balancer is active. Okay, we now have an IP address, so I'm going to use this IP address and just connect to that Stable Diffusion pod. There we are. Now we can try it out. Let's pump up some of the numbers here, and let's try out a text to image. So as you can see, it's very fast, so it's using an L4 GPU, which is very powerful, of course, and it's generating an image in a few seconds, and there we go. We have an image generated by this Stable Diffusion server. Right, so back to this. You can easily scale with Kubernetes, you can easily scale pods, so we could very quickly increment by just changing the number of replicas. When we do this and apply the configuration, GPU demo.yaml, then this deploys Stable Diffusion service on with a load balancer in front, so this would balance between the two Stable Diffusion services. Okay. You can also suspend the cluster. So what we mean by suspending a cluster is a feature that we've created that allows you to, when you do not need this cluster anymore, you can just suspend it, and once you suspend this cluster, then of course you can no longer access your services. It's no longer there, but everything is kept for that cluster. So all the deployments are kept, and the cluster is ready to start at any point. So once it's suspended, you're not being billed for the pods, and you're not being billed for the use of the GPUs. You are, however, keeping the load balancer IP address, and you will keep paying for that load balancer. And you can resume the cluster. So when the cluster is available again, you can just see the pods running again. So we've got the two pods that we had configured and core DNS, and the cluster is up again and we can connect to it. Okay, that is Ori Kubernetes Serverless and some of the features we have created for it, giving you quick and easy Kubernetes access to high performance GPUs in a cost-effective way.